Historically, Penn State football is one of the top college football programs in the nation. They have multiple national titles, are a pipeline to the NFL, and have been ranked #1 for 21 weeks throughout the history of the AP poll. Since the 2000s, though, they have not been the dominant program they became known to be in the 1980s and 1990s, but this year could be their best chance at making it back to the top of the college football world. But will James Franklin be able to do it? Let's take a look back at the history of Penn State football and look at why they may dominate college football this year. But before we get into this, if you enjoy college football content like this, make sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'm planning to release a video every day for the month of August. Also, comment who you want me to cover in future videos and your record prediction for Penn State football this fall in the comments section below. Penn State football began on November 12, 1881, when they traveled to Lewisburg to take on Bucknell, which was known as the University of Lewisburg at the time. The Nittany Lions would win their first game 9-0, as the product on the field was more of an American rugby than what we would know as football today. What is funny though is Bucknell denies this game ever being played. They would not play their next game until 1887 and would not have their first coach until 1892. In 1891, Penn State joined the Pennsylvania Intercollegiate Football Association, aka the PIFA, which consisted of Bucknell, Dickinson, Franklin and Marshall, Haverford, and Swarthmore, along with Penn State. Lafayette and Lehigh were excluded because it was felt that they would dominate the association. The Nittany Lions would win the championship that year, and the conference was dissolved before the 1892 season. Penn State's first football coach was George W. Hoskins, who put together a 17-4-4 record from 1892 to 1895. His .760 winning percentage is the highest in program history. A 500-seat Beaver Field opened in 1893. Samuel B. Newton took over the program after Hoskins and went 12-14. In 1907, Penn State adopted the Nittany Lions mascot, a mountain lion named after the nearby Mount Nittany. After a handful of coaches, Bill Hollenbach took over as head coach in 1909, before leaving for Missouri in 1910 but returning in 1911. His brother Jack coached the team in 1910. In 1911 and 1912, his team went 8-1 and 8-0 and were awarded retroactive national championships by the National Championship Foundation, which are recognized by the NCAA. Head coach Dick Harlow followed Bill after he finished with a 28-9-4 record. Harlow developed a new type of defense that focused on going around and in between offensive linemen rather than trying to always overpower them. Harlow went 20-8 while head coach of Penn State and is inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame. Hugo Bezdak would follow Harlow and would later become Penn State's first athletic director after coaching the team for 12 seasons. During his tenure, he led the Nittany Lions to a 65-30-11 record, which included 2 undefeated seasons and a berth in the 1922 Rose Bowl, which they lost. He was later inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame. The impressive part of this is he did that all without an athletic scholarship players. The university suspended football scholarships in the 1920s due to public outcry over the football deaths. Bob Higgins, a Penn State alum, followed Bezdek and coached the team for 19 seasons. He compiled a 91-57-11 overall record, which included 11 winning seasons and only 5 losing seasons. Following World War II, Penn State filled with a team full of military veterans using the GI Bill, went undefeated in 1947, and tied a Doak Walker-led SMU team in the Cotton Bowl 13-13. The Nittany Lions missed the extra point to upset the #1 team in the nation and finished the season 9-1 and 4th in the pre-bowl AP poll. They allowed an average of 4 points per game all season long. The national attention brought by the fabled squad encouraged the PSC Board of Trustees to make some changes in the summer of 1953. The school changed its name from Penn State College to Penn State University. Beaver Field bleachers, capacity of 23,000, were relocated to the east side of the campus, expanding to a whopping 46,000 seats, and renamed Beaver Stadium, and they reinstituted athletic scholarships for football players. As they rebuilt the football program in the 50s and 60s, they beat Bear Bryant's Alabama in the 1959 Liberty Bowl, crushed a Woody Hayes-led Ohio State team 23-0 in Columbus in 1964, and finished with 3 unbeaten seasons in 1968, 1969, and 1973, but they failed to get the respect for their success by the AP National Championship. Rip Engel led the team from 1950 until 1965, putting together a 104, 48-4 record, and never had a losing season. Engel was replaced by possibly one of the greatest college football coaches of all time, Joe Paterno, in 1966. Penn State adapted by scheduling decade-long series with traditional powers like Alabama and Notre Dame, Shorter series with Big Ten and Pac-10 squads willing to play the Lions like Iowa, Ohio State, and USC, as well as a handful of contests against Big 8 teams like Nebraska and Southwestern teams in Texas and Houston. This worked out for the Nittany Lions, with them finishing ranked inside the national top 10 12 times in the 70s and 80s, making 12 BCS-level bowls, 4 national title games, winning 2 consensus national championships, and 1 Heisman Trophy. Beaver Stadium also saw upgrades as the stadium increased capacity from 46,000 seats to 91,000 seats. Penn State was an independent at the time, and after the 1984 NCAA versus Oklahoma Board of Supreme Court decision, if they wanted to stay relevant, they needed to join a conference. According to an SB Nation article written back in 2016, in mid-December 1989, then relatively new Big Ten Commissioner Jim Delaney gathered his 10 athletic directors onto a conference call for a big announcement. "Gentlemen, at 3 p.m. we are making an announcement that Penn State is joining the Big Ten," he said. The stunned ADs sat slack-jawed, unable to speak, until Michigan's Bo Schembechler broke the silence. "You gotta be shitting me." The university presidents hold a vote, which Delaney had secured prior to the December 1989 phone call. But you better involve the athletic directors in the process or they'll be held to pay, a lesson young Delaney learned early on and used as a weapon. Penn State did not join the Big Ten until 1993, but it was still a big deal. In 1994, Penn State went undefeated, beating every team by an average of 48-21. Throughout the rest of the 1990s, they never spent a week outside the top 25 poll, but college football was changing and the Nittany Lions were not. As the 2000s came around, Penn State had 3 losing seasons in 4 years. They showed flashes in 2005 and 2008, but they were not dominant. Paterno began to take a hands-off approach to recruiting in his older age, and it showed on the field. In 2010 and 2011, Penn State played a home-and-home with longtime rival Alabama. Penn State had a handful of pro prospects, half of whom were father-son legacies. Bama, on the other hand, had a whole squad of them, all over the field. The 2 historic powers looked completely different. The SB Nation article writes, if Bama was spending $80 million a year on football, then Penn State had stopped its investment around $40 million. They were not competing for national titles anymore. They were competing for Outback Bowl appearances. When the Jerry Sandusky Scandal came to light in November of 2011, Paterno was fired by the Penn State Board of Trustees, and in July of 2012, the NCAA decided to vacate all of the team wins from 1998 to 2011. Paterno's statue outside of Beaver Stadium was also taken down. The revised record dropped Paterno from 1st to 12th all-time on the all-time wins list, but on January 16, 2015, the NCAA restored Paterno's vacated wins, and thus his record as the winningest FBS football coach still stands. New England Patriots offense coordinator Bill O'Brien was hired to replace Paterno. O'Brien introduced computers, digital video, and free weights. No, that's not a joke, that's seriously what happened. He doubled Penn State's recruiting budget, bringing the Lions up from 10th in the Big Ten to about 6th or 7th, while also changing the playbook. Early in O'Brien's tenure, the NCAA sanctioned Penn State with a 4-season postseason ban and loss of 40 scholarships due to the Sandusky Scandal. O'Brien went 8-4 in his first season and 7-5 in his second season before bolting to the NFL. He jump-started a program on the doorstep of death. Vanderbilt head football coach James Franklin was hired to replace O'Brien and earned himself a top 5 salary in doing so. At Franklin's request, they tripled the recruiting budget, dropped a couple $1 million on decorations for the football facilities, and spent more than $1 million a year on assistant coaches. He has led the team to 4 11-win seasons, 1 Big Ten championship, and 4 New Year's Six Bowl appearances. However, he has struggled against Ohio State, the dominant team in the Big Ten East Division, with a record of 1-5 in his tenure. Franklin, after dropping off in 2020 and 2021, saw Penn State win 11-2, winning the Rose Bowl in 2022, and looked primed to have a special season in 2023. Going into the season, Franklin has a 78-36 record as the Nittany Lions head coach. He will have the best quarterback he has probably had in his tenure with Drew Aller. They are 5th in the ESPN's S&P Plus preseason rankings, and he promised the Board of Trustees he will lead them to another amazing season. They may have their highest preseason ranking since 2017 this season. The 2017 roster consisted of Trace McSorley, Saquon Barkley, Miles Sanders, Mike Gesicki, and Deshaun Hamilton. This squad consists of Nicholas Singleton, Katron Allen, Theo Johnson, Olu Fashanu, Keandre Lambert-Smith, and Drew Aller. This also should be the best offensive line Penn State has had in the Franklin tenure. The defense, led by defensive coordinator Manny Diaz, looks stacked with talent with Chop Robinson, Kalen King, Curtis Jacobs, and Abdul Carter. Heading into the Ohio State game, they can easily be sitting at 6-0. They have 3 weeks between conference games against Northwestern and Ohio State, including a bye week and a non-conference game against Massachusetts. For Penn State to be a national title contender, though, they will need to beat Michigan or Ohio State, if not both, which Franklin has struggled to do so, having a 4-14 combined record. This is James Franklin's best chance at bringing Penn State back to national title glory. The question is, can he get it done? And if he fails, will the narrative begin to flip on him? Only time will tell. What do you think? How good will Penn State be this season? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and to subscribe for more college football content like this, and check out one of my other videos YouTube thinks you will love right here. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.